Mic test, mic test.
Irfaan.
Ready? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media. You can have your seats. Just before we start, can you please ensure that your mobile phones are on silent or turned off so we don't have any disturbances during the proceedings? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning we have with us His Excellency Chandrikapersad Santhoki, President of the Republic of Suriname, and His Excellency Dr. Irfaan Ali. We will begin with a brief from Dr. Ali, followed by the President of Suriname, Dr. Ali. No, sir.
My colleague, President Santoki, foreign ministers, other members of the cabinet, members of the media, good morning. This morning I am pleased to briefly address you on a series of thematic areas President Santhoki and I would have held discussions on within the last 24 hours. These discussions are aimed at strengthening our bilateral relationships, but more importantly, about opening up new opportunities from emerging sectors, and also looking at the infrastructure link that can create opportunities for us and our human resources of both countries. We recognize that our countries share similar challenges, circumstances, and opportunities at this moment. And it is very critical and important for us to work together, to find common solutions, to collaborate, and to support each other in tackling the challenges, whilst at the same time confronting the opportunities that both countries and the people of both countries can benefit from. We also recognize that we need to set out an agenda that is proactive, an agenda with deadlines, an agenda with greater involvement of stakeholders in the society of both countries, especially the private sector. And we have also discussed ways in which the private sector of both countries will collaborate and be part of this transformational landscape that can bring tremendous benefit to our countries. We have also settled collaboration among ministries, particularly in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, but more importantly, in working out a strategic vision that is implementable, that is time-bound, and we have both stressed the need to have time-bound objectives. So we have laid the framework that would enable us to make use of the opportunities, that would enable us to confront the challenges, that would define the way we approach international partners, international financial institutions, the raising of capital, the management of the natural resources sector, joint engagement on local content policy, because as you are aware, Suriname is also an emerging player in the oil and gas sector, the sharing of information on issues of security, use of technology, joint radar surveillance of our borders. These are all some of the weighty issues that we have addressed, and we are setting up a working committee at the policy level and at the technical level, not only to advance discussions, but to come up with a timetable of action for the implementation. We also looked at the agricultural sector. We looked at mining, quarrying, and of course, ICT. Those are some of the areas that we would have addressed in jointly dealing with the approach to the future. We want to be transparent and open to the public and to the media. As a result, we have both agreed to extend this briefing when the two of us would have completed this overarching brief to the media, to extend this to a brief from the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, who will more elaborately outline to you the areas that we'll be focusing on. And of course, you will have an opportunity to ask questions within the boundaries of the discussions. So this is an opportunity for us to, in a more detailed manner, but a structured manner, to accept a few questions within the boundaries of the discussions. So I don't intend to be long, but we are here to set a new agenda, a strategic agenda, a proactive agenda for Suriname and Guyana in ensuring that we strategically position ourselves not only to benefit, but to ensure the people benefit in a transparent manner from both countries. You will also hear a lot about some of the immediate task and action, the bridging of the Quarantine River, the connection of the two countries. Those are some of the things that you will almost see immediate discussions and technical work going forward. So thank you very much. And as I said, we'll take a few questions, and then the Minister of Foreign Affairs will address you in a more in-depth manner. Thank you.
Thank you, President Ali. May I now invite the President of Suriname to give his remarks.
Thank you very much, President Dr. Ali. Welcome, good morning, all media workers, ministers, other members of cabinet. Let me start by thanking the President of Guyana for inviting me to attend his inauguration. And I'm very pleased to be in Guyana, and I thank the Guyanese people for their hospitality. I want to present my congratulations once again to the newly elected President on behalf of my government, but also on behalf of the people of Suriname, and wish him a most successful term in office. The bond between our two peoples have been a long-lasting one with many similarities. Let us build on that. I believe destiny and history at times create opportunities for unity and renewal. I feel this one such a moment in both our countries. We should seize this opportunity and seek new ways to provide our people with a better life. And ladies and gentlemen, I came here for a ceremony, but direct after the ceremony, we too, as president, newly elected president of two neighboring countries, we felt that responsibility, and we notice our leadership, that we are here in Guyana as two leaders to do more than only attending the ceremony, and that we should think and work about new strategies, about a new time period, about new challenges for our both nations and people. And believe it or not, we started yesterday evening with hard working, together with our staff. And there were some conclusions we could make jointly because we two leaders have a shared view on how we should build our future of two nations and how we should cooperate. Yes, there's a historical cooperation with Suriname and Guyana. But from this moment, with these two leaders, there will be a value added to that cooperation. And the first one will be that cooperation will be on a very high level, on the level of the two presidents. The second one will be that this cooperation will not be a government cooperation only. Governments should facilitate, and they should facilitate the private sector. So there will be an increased private sector cooperation between the two communities. The third level will be the cooperation on community level. There is a large Guyanese community in Suriname, which is totally and fully integrated. But there are also a lot of Surinamese companies in Guyana now. Those things are the example. Those things are the key elements on which we should build further. Now with policy, now with structuring, and now with more energy by involving and including all the sectors. We'll cooperate and we'll improve the cooperation, we'll deepen the cooperation, we'll expand the cooperation based on mutual respect, based on mutual benefit, and we'll formalize that with a formal agreement, which will be signed in a timeline we'll set out. And there are already some targets of times identified already. And we're not talking about months, we're talking about weeks, wherein we have to accomplish some of the arrangements. But the cooperation will not only be bilaterally. The cooperation will be also regionally, where two leaders of two countries belonging to the Caribbean community, but present on the continent of South America, that we have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of commons in natural resources, in our people, in our culture, in our history, but we see also a bright future for our people. And there we want to invest jointly on sharing information, but also to take leadership in the regional development, particularly in the area of the green economy, with our Amazon forest. And there we have the challenge to make the maximum benefit of this green economy for the beneficial of not only our own nation, but for the world community. But the other challenge is there. That's the blue economy. What we know is the oil and the gas. What we know is the fishery was there. But I can tell you, there is more in the blue economy. There's more in the sea. There's more under the sea. And there is a new opportunity for us to explore it in such a manner that we can benefit not only our two nations, but also our region, to include our region, the community of our region. But there are also issues which are calling for the international community. And there we have to express leadership also towards the international community, to have joint leadership when we should approach issues which are on the agenda of the world, which are on the agenda of international institutions, particularly issues which are on the agenda, which are of common interest. We are facing the same challenges as regards financial and economic crisis. We are facing the same threat from the COVID-19 pandemic. How we should deal as two neighboring countries. How we should deal with the movement of persons and goods. There are still people in Suriname, maybe also in Guyana. They want to repatriate. How we should handle that properly. But also to promote such a health policy in our countries which can contribute to a better health condition in the region and the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we worked very hard yesterday, and we worked very hard this morning. We had a meeting with the private sector, we had a meeting with the diplomatic community, and now we are having a meeting with you. This must be a signal towards the region, towards the international community, but moreover, to our community, that now in Guyana and Suriname, there are two leaders who will work day and night for the people of Guyana and Suriname, based on their own responsibility towards the nation, but also based on shared responsibility on issues which are binding us, but also on two personal commitments. Yes, President Ali, we get the mandate of our people. We are a product of democracy. We get the mandate to serve our nation, and we'll do that jointly, in close cooperation with all the sectors we have to include. We'll do that by inclusion of everyone. We'll run countries, and we will bring development, and we'll bring prosperity without excluding someone or somebody in our strategy. We are a big family. We belong together, and that's our message, that will strengthen our family, will strengthen our brotherhood, and there will be unity. There will be unity among our people. There will be unity between our countries, our government, the private sector, and the people. And that is our mission, with that unity to create prosperity for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. We will now invite questions on the presentations made to the President. Marcel.
Marcel Thomas from the Starborough News. For President Ali, sorry, you would have discussed a number of areas of cooperation, but my question zooms in on residents along the Quarantine River and their concerns. I didn't hear anything about that. There have been frequent complaints from persons that they're not allowed to carry out their routine activities along the Quarantine River without interference from the Surinamese Coast Guard. I want to know if this will come up in discussions for it to be resolved. And for President Santoki, my question to you, sir, you would have spoken about the financial crisis in your own country and here on the background of the policies and measures and plans that you both have outlined. I want to know, one, if your plans to address your own financial crisis, you had said that Suriname was in a financial abyss, I think, or on the brink of. How does Guyana come into play? And in your country, do you plan to take back some of the measures that were there, subsidies, that is, water, electricity, or anything like that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcel. First of all, I want to assure you that those discussions surrounded those areas also, not only of residents along the Quarantine River, but the issue of security, piracy, and so on. The foreign ministers would elaborate a bit. So they were raised, and we have committed ourselves to examining these things in depth within a time frame. And we have recognized, and that is why President Santhoki made it very clear, that this is not only business cooperation or technical cooperation or political cooperation, this is human cooperation also, and how we can ensure that the systems and the policies ensure that human cooperation, and that is why I think President Santhoki was so right. We need to send a signal. Sometimes the leaders need to send a signal, and that is what we hope to achieve by this early meeting and set of principles that will guide an agreement and in moving forward, so that the people of Guyana and Suriname know we are in this together. And yes, those issues were discussed, and they will be addressed. Those issues will be addressed in a very structured manner. We're talking beyond that about integrating the economies, about the infrastructure link, not only between Guyana and Suriname, but the possibility of going further afield, the Guyana Shield Initiative. All of these were things that were discussed. But I don't want to go in depth. The foreign ministers will take some of that, but I thank you for your questions, and I assure you that those are issues that were discussed.
Thank you very much for your question. Yes, we in the Caribbean, we are so-called the small nation states. And all of the countries are facing a challenge, not only based on the COVID, but also given the fact of crisis momentum in the world, but also local crisis situation that these countries are facing with that financial crisis. Yesterday, we were sitting with the special envoy of the Prime Minister, Miamotli of Barbados. And there is a good example. When the new elected government took office in Barbados, that they were facing a tremendous financial crisis. And that is what I'm recognizes, that we are in a similar situation. And we can sit in Suriname and discuss with the IMF, the World Bank, and the IDB about modalities and what should work well in Suriname. But why we cannot look at Barbados? And that's the agreement we had reached yesterday, to sit and talk with Barbados, how they have dealt with the financial crisis, and where they started, and where they are now. And we can learn from them. And the similar thing, yesterday we discussed with the President, the Vice President, and the Prime Minister of Guyana. And also we saw there that they have a lot of experience in dealing with such a matter. That is one of the objectives of such kind of meetings. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. It is there already, within your region, within your friends. So that is the first thing, what we can benefit from Guyana and also Caribbean region, Barbados. The second thing is that the financial crisis, yes, you can solve that with close cooperation with the international community to have some rescheduling and reprofiling of your debt position. And we have to do that. And we'll do that based on the experience what we'll gain in our communication with Guyana and Barbados. But the sustainable development should come from the private sector, from the small and medium enterprises. And there is the opportunity for both nations to invite those companies to invest in Suriname, to work closely with the Surinamese companies. And those kind of investment, that will be the sustainable backbone of our economy. And that is what we have to look. Very often, we as small nations, we're looking for big multinationals to invite and come to invest, and very often we are forgetting our own companies. They are here in Guyana and Suriname, but they are also in diaspora. Let me give them also now the opportunity. Let me invite them and to see what kind of contribution they can deliver to strengthen our economy and to bring a situation which is in the timeline of our country called the stabilization stage, and that should be reached after 9 months. In the 9 months, we'll have a lot of programs for the urgent period, thereafter the stabilization period, 24 months, and then we'll go to a growth stage. But we have to start today, and that we have done with the private company meetings, to invite them today to start with discussion to invest. And therefore we'll have some mechanisms like the Guyana Suriname Chamber Cooperation, and also business forum that will contribute to strengthen our economy. Thank you.
Next.
Mr. President, Dennis Chabrol, Damara Waves News Talk Radio. A question to both of you, the presidents of Guyana and Suriname. With the huge oil reserves that are being discovered offshore both countries, what roles do you see Guyana and Suriname playing in Caribbean energy security and geopolitical influence in the region? And quickly, sirs, could you elaborate on plans to rehabilitate, to bridge the Quarantine River, and also if there are any plans to rehabilitate or purchase a new ferry across the Quarantine River? And President Santoki specifically, what fast-track mechanisms there may be to resolve the Guyana-Suriname territorial dispute, which has been there for quite a while. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis. We have discussed the issue of oil and gas, but not only oil and gas, the natural resources sector, issues of climate change and the environment. And what we found is that we both have the same challenge in terms of human resource capacity, local private sector capacity, and of course the issue of local content. And we have agreed that in that policy steering body, and the foreign ministers would outline to you the specific discussions surrounding this, that we must collaborate in terms of sharing knowledge, sharing information, and having synergies in the way we manage the sector. I mentioned the issue of the local content policy. We have also agreed that on the environmental side and climate change, we had started some initiative years ago when we had a low carbon development strategy, and we have a responsibility to the region and to the rest of the world in relation to the issue of climate change. So we will have those areas of health, business, and so on, will be collaborating at a technical level and at a different sectorial level in coming up with a refined specific strategies for the different sectors to be presented within a time frame. I think the foreign ministers will tell you about that time frame, and it's weeks, not months in some cases, so that we can crystallize the discussion. In terms of the bridge on the Quarantine River between Guyana and Suriname, that is high up on the agenda, but of course we now have to put that in a technical working group, but not only the bridge as an isolation as an isolated project, but the bridge as a menu part of a menu package that include, listen, we can't compete against each other in terms of different sectors, but we can complement each other. So we have to have discussions on what is best on our side, where we would concentrate our efforts, where Suriname can concentrate their efforts, so we have more synergy. The purpose is to have synergy to complement each other. And training of the human resources capacity, for example, for the oil and gas sector, the climate change, biodiversity, building the logistics center, with discussions surrounding even the deep water harbor. How do we integrate the region, the geopolitical importance of the two countries along the Guyana Shield? And we recognize the importance and the leading role we will have to play in ensuring that the CARICOM itself, that we have sustainable goals that includes the private sector as a major stakeholder, and that we have a responsibility to ensure the entire region prosper when we prosper. So those are the guiding principles that will, the overarching guiding principles that will inform the technical level in fleshing out the details. So that is from our side. In terms of the border, we also discuss issues surrounding these areas. And one thing we recognize is that whatever we do must be settled as far as possible, if not completely, with dialogue in a peaceful and respectful manner, because we want to work together and complement each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think President Ali had addressed all the questions. Yes, I will repeat. We'll have always here and there some issues. And yes, there are some issues, but what we agreed from today is that there will be a high-level structure of operation. So all the issues and all the topics will be under the umbrella. And all of the topics will get their own joint working teams. Some of them are existing already. They will be energized. They'll be renewed. They will be now also instructed with the new energy, with the new commitment, and the new vision we have as two leaders to take care that we'll develop cooperation now with good understanding and good dialogue, and these two presidents will be in charge of giving direction to the strategy.
Sir, I think you missed the question. He was asking about the border.
Yeah, that is covered with the dialogue.
Okay. Gordon, you have a question?
Yeah, Gordon Mosley, News Source. Good afternoon, President Ali and President Santhoki. President Santoki, first to you, sir. I know you come from a security background, having worked as a justice minister in the past. And you've worked along in the past too with Guyana in terms of drug trafficking and getting at least one drug trafficker to the U.S. Sir, could you say how you're going to deepen those relations, not just with fighting drug trafficking, but also maritime security? And President Ali, to you, sir, I know both Suriname and Guyana closed off their borders because of the coronavirus, but it's a link that a lot of people, especially along the quarantine coast, depend on, and in Nigeria and Suriname depend on also for trade. Have you discussed the reopening of the Guyana-Suriname border and that critical ferry service? And finally, to both of you gentlemen, past governments in both Guyana and Suriname have had these discussions before, had made promises before, had set timelines and deals before. Both of you are new in your positions. How are you going to work to ensure that this time around we actually reach the finishing line with many of these promises and discussions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mosley. First of all, let me say that yes, the coronavirus and the pandemic issue occupied a large space of the agenda, and the reopening of the borders also occupied a large space on the agenda. That is why we invited the Minister of Health into the meeting, and they are to almost immediately begin a collaboration on the protocols and to put systems in place that will be for our review so that we can move expeditiously in returning and opening up in a manner that can bring back normalcy, but also in a manner that takes into consideration the reality of the pandemic and ensuring that the structure and the systems are there to support the decisions that will be made. So that is happening at that level. I want to assure you that these are not just discussions and promises and timelines. That is why, if you look at most of the agreements, you would not see specific timelines. That is why we have specific timelines. And you will hear from the two foreign ministers. We have already established a timetable of meetings, and you will see within weeks an action plan leading to the accomplishment of some of these goals and some of these strategic areas that we are looking towards. And just to give you one example, in terms of the private sector collaboration and to have a joint chambers, if you may put it that way, we already held discussions with the local private sector this morning. And they have already signaled their intention, and President Santoki and Foreign Minister Ramdin has also signaled their intention of inviting the local private sector to further that conversation almost immediately so that you will see action taken very, very quickly. So those are some of the things I would want to say in addressing your question, President Santhoki.
Thank you very much, President. Yes, I have a security background, and with that security background, I can enrich our policy as regard security on the national level, but also on the bilateral and regional and international level. In the new cooperation, which will be framework from the highest level, there will be one cooperation area in the sector of security. The security which we have to define as all types of security, the maritime security, cross-border security, and all types of security which should enable us to have a safe environment for our citizens, but also a security which will enable us to have a safe region, and also security from the international perspective, which will call also for some action as national security, but also as regional security. That is what we can do jointly to strengthen the regional security. That's why I said we have to take leadership in some of those topics. And the security will be sure one of the topics where we want to express our leadership to create a better security for the region and for both nations. Yes, the cooperation is of historical nature. It is there. And I believe that there are a lot of achievements based on historical cooperation and also based on historical effort. What will differ now? The difference is the confidence we have as two leaders, that we two leaders have the belief that we can do it jointly. That's very important. The expression of the confidence in two leaders. The second thing is that we have the commitment as two leaders that we want to do it, and we want to direct it personally, and we want to guide it personally, and that we want to be it on the level of the two presidents. The third thing is that we have the mandate of our people to have this level of cooperation, and we'll exercise based on that mandate we have from our people. The other thing is that we are supported as two leaders, as two new governments, by the regional and the international community. And with that support will improve also our efforts, what we have to do for our both nations and to strengthen the bilateral cooperation between Suriname and Guyana. So those are the new elements, and we'll evaluate constantly. And I can give you the guarantee that we'll start as quick as possible, because we have the belief, the trust, the confidence that we can do it differently and we can do it better.
Thank you, Your Excellencies.